There are few days in a PC gamer's life that are more exciting than when it's time to build a new PC. Now, unfortunately for me, this is not a gaming computer, and this is also not my computer. This computer will be going to my lovely mother, who has been using the same computer since 2012. And it's time for an upgrade. Now, this isn't going to be a step-by-step guide on how to build a computer, because there's about 1,000 of those on YouTube, and they're made by people who can probably do a better job explaining it than me. But this is going to be a build video, and I'm really excited about this new Fractal Terra computer case that I actually got on sale on Cyber Monday. In fact, nearly everything I bought here was on sale, and at the end of the video I'll give a price for what this computer cost. Some of you may have noticed that there is no box here for a graphics card. Well, that's because this computer is not going to have dedicated graphics. Again, this computer is for my mom, and my mom, at least to my knowledge, does not play any video games. Let's go over some of the parts that I bought. On Cyber Monday, Micro Center had a bundle deal where you could get a 14700K, 32 gigabytes of DDR5, 6000 RAM, and a motherboard for $499. Just like with the motherboard, I had to buy a smaller power supply to fit into the Fractal Terra. This is an SFXL power supply, which is the largest power supply that will fit in the Fractal Terra. Now, I got an 850 watt because it was a good deal. By no means will my mom's computer need 850 watts of power. In fact, it won't even need 600. But hey, better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. For storage, I got this Western Digital Black 1 terabyte PCIe Gen 4 M.2 card. 1 terabyte should be more than enough for my mom, who has very little of anything stored on her computer. For CPU cooler, I bought this Noctua low-profile cooler. Now, that Fractal Terra does have a spot for 120mm AIO, but for peace of mind and reliability, I decided to go with air-cooled instead of water-cooled. For fans, I did buy one 120mm fan to go in the case. And last but not least, we have the case, the Fractal Terra. Nice. So anyway, there it is, the Fractal Terra. And I'm excited to get building in this, so let's get started. All right, so here we are, we're ready to get started. Got my RAM, I got my CPU, got our motherboard here. This is the Gigabyte Aorus Z790i Ultra gaming motherboard. Obviously, this is a mini ITX board, so you only get 2 RAM slots, which is fine because we have 2 RAM sticks for dual channel memory. So I think the first thing I'm actually going to do is put my M.2 in here under this heatsink. And to do that, we're just going to go ahead and take out these 3 screws that are holding down the heatsink. Take this off, set it off to the side. It does have a nice thermal pad here on this heatsink for that M.2. Here's our M.2 that I got on a Cyber Monday deal. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and install our M.2 into the top M.2 slot. There's actually another M.2 below this one. Now this motherboard, instead of a screw, actually has this little tab that you push down on it to set the M.2 in place. We're gonna go ahead and slide it in and then push this down, and it's in. Now we're gonna take this off. Gonna go ahead and reinstall the heat sink. Now that we got that M.2 installed, I think we're gonna go ahead and move on to the CPU. And a sticker, yay! What a beauty. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put our CPU in there. There's a little arrow on the corner of our CPU here, so we're gonna go ahead and line that up. It's hard to see, but down here on the motherboard there is a little arrow painted onto it. That's how you know which way the CPU goes. So we're just gonna gently set it down into the socket. We're gonna close our lid. Once we got our lid down, we're just gonna go ahead and pull our little handle here, push it down and tuck it under that little bracket. That's how you put that CPU in there. Now that our CPU's in, we can move on to our CPU cooler. Nice. Now we got that RAM in there, and this is a nice clean little setup, I'm not gonna lie. All right, so we've got the CPU in, the CPU cooler, we also got our 2 sticks of RAM, as well as our M.2. Now I think we're ready to put it in the case. Okay, so we're back here with our Fractal Terra case, and I've played around with this a little bit off camera. And I have to admit, the little bit I've played with this thing, it's actually really cool. Both the side panels and the top come off really easily. The side panel, you just lift up, and there's a little tab that you push in, and it comes right off. The other side panel is exactly the same. You just pop it open, little tab, pull it, and pop the top off. To pull the top off, it's really easy. There's a little tab on the back here, and all you do is just pull it straight back and lift it off. On the inside, there's this movable spine that there's a bunch of different adjustments depending on how much room you need for either your motherboard and CPU or your GPU. It does have this GPU bracket, and it does come with a GPU riser, or I should say a PCIe 4 riser to run from your motherboard to the front of the case here. I did take it off just because my mom doesn't play video games. I will keep it around just in case she decides to get into PC gaming, because if she does, I'll gladly go buy her a 4080 or something. I think it's time we get started. Let's grab that motherboard and put that in here first. All right, so here is our motherboard with that 14700K. Gonna line the IO up. So for the time being, I'm just gonna pop probably 2 screws in here, just in case we have to take this out and make any adjustments. I'll put the other 2 screws in before we get done. I'm gonna go ahead and do these front panel connectors before I do the power supply. Here we have our SFXL power supply, 850 watts from Corsair. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in here and see how it fits. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Now that I've gotten to this point, obviously you're able to put a fan on the bottom of this, but I really don't know if that's gonna be possible with how tight this is here. But I'm gonna look at the manual really quick and see how we can configure this. Okay, so the manual does show installing a 120mm fan underneath where the power supply is, and I don't know how well you can see this, but there is basically no room in between the power supply and the bottom of this case. There's a ton of room back here for cable management, obviously because we don't have a graphics card installed. So before I get too into cable management and making this look really nice and pretty, I'm gonna go ahead, put the top and the side panels back on and go install Windows and do some testing on it, and then we'll go ahead and cable management and finish up shop.
2 days later.
Okay, so it's been a couple days since I last recorded putting this computer together. Since that time, I've gone ahead and updated the BIOS, installed Windows, and did a little bit of cable management on the computer. To be fair, there really wasn't a lot to cable manage in here, just a little bit of tidying up, and it was good to go. Over those last couple of days, I've had some time to play around with the computer, and it works as it should. I've put it under heavy load and it never overheats, even without a case fan. That's just relying on the PSU fan and the CPU cooler. Obviously the sides are all mesh, the top is all mesh, the bottom is all mesh, so airflow really isn't an issue. I do have some concerns with this case in terms of dust. There's no dust filters anywhere to be found. It just might be one of those things that I have to make sure I'm cleaning out once a month or so to make sure it doesn't get too dusty inside and overheat, because I think that will be a problem down the road if it's not. As for the case, this was my first ever M-ITX build, and I have to admit, I really like this case. Fractal Design, in my opinion, is the best computer case maker on the market. They're always high quality, full of features, and well thought out for the consumer. this Fractal Terra made doing my first ITX build a breeze. Truly, I thought it would be a lot more difficult to cable manage and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, I don't have a GPU and there's no RGB to be found in this computer, so if you had those things, it's going to be a little tight in here. But for what I needed and for what my mom needed, this was perfect. I'm excited to get this thing over to my parents' house and see what my mom thinks. But in the meantime, that's pretty much all I had for this video. I hope you liked it, and I can't thank you enough for watching the video, especially if you made it to the end. Make sure to like and subscribe and check out our podcast if you haven't. And as always, thank you very much for watching.